Hey fam, welcome back to another episode of I'm Telling You. You're not going to do it?
Right.
You're like, I'm telling you.
telling you.
There it is. You got to do that. Yeah, welcome back to another glorious episode with your amazing host, Philly D.
Mr. Gemini.
And our fact checker
JD.
extraordinaire. Yeah, Miss JD. Everybody in the house tonight.
You guys tripped over each other.
That's all right. Well then, all right. So fact checker extraordinaire.
JD.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like when we sign out and it's like I say peace, you say peace, and then like 3 seconds later she's like peace.
Peace.
Wait, dude, I totally added that to one of our episodes. I had a couple people just like, wait, that wasn't her. I was like,
that was just a drop.
Yeah, that was me. That wasn't, I was trying to make sure she felt like the love and all that good stuff. But yeah, so first time listeners, it's a 30-year friendship now with a fact checker. So we got, we got knowledge we can be dropping. And we do like dad jokes and movie quotes, and sometimes we get philosophical or quantum physics or hilarity.
A couple of old friends just chit-chatting.
We just chit chat. We just sitting on a
man.
stoop. Dude, it's like we sitting on a stoop, sipping some whiskey, like, maybe smoking a cigar or something. Just,
Or some shine,
Well, I mean, that's what you want
Maybe
right
drinking
now.
some shine.
Yeah, I got watermelon. I got watermelon ale.
I don't just bring the glass. I bring like the whole bottle.
You got a handle.
I got a handle.
Legit handle.
They call that a handle, but you can only really fit one finger in there.
Well, I mean, that's like the ear of the jug.
Okay.
Isn't that what it is? They call that the ear?
Is that the ear?
Yeah, I feel like a handle actually is the handle. That's like that 1.5 or whatever, that 175 where you can like legit like handle it. I feel like.
A handle.
Is this not a thing?
That's like a jug. It's a jug handle that we're talking about. Jug.
Yeah, that's what they call it, an ear. I
Not
don't
like
know.
in traffic. The jug handle's different. That's where you drive off and then back on the main thoroughfare. Never mind.
Going through like the clover leaf or something, or
Cloverleaf, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jug handle, whatever.
So I want to, if we could, let's possibly put some antics aside for at least a minute.
Yeah, oh yeah, and if you want to reach out to us, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
Hit us up at I'm telling you at directionsinmusic.org. That's IMTELLINYOU at directionsinmusic.org.
Yeah, thank you for that, dude. Wow, you're the corraller tonight. Holy crap. That's all right. Well,
I just did the robot.
I just did. Miss JD did the
Totally
robot.
missed it,
Thank
sorry.
you. So I actually wanted to revisit one of our topics, if we could. Like, I mean, the past couple of times, I feel like you've been hijacking the mic pretty hard. I'm gonna do that tonight. I want to go back to this Mayan civilization, spirituality. Like, there's some new stuff going on that, like, I watched some things, did a little research and whatnot, and then like kind of came to some conclusions, which got me thinking even further on our conversation about, the supposed disappearance or whatever and all that kind of stuff. So we're like,
Are we back in the lost technology kind of stuff again?
well, so there was a thing though.
Because I
Was
feel like there's got to be like some kind of overlap in the lost technology because that's one of my favorite things.
So from that conversation, two things were said that I really resonated with. One of which being, you said them on a like emotional, spiritual energy entity resonated on a frequency that allowed them to basically like disappear. Like, you said that little bit of black matter inside of them, they just like bloop, and they just like inside out, and they're in another place.
And I think that was just one of the things that I'd heard throughout the years.
Right. But so that one, and then also mine, where it was them coming to that realization that they're not this body, that the only way for them to sever that connection was for them to like just,
Now we have our fact checker on. Like, how many people are we talking about that disappeared? First of all,
did we get? Because I mean, Mayans, Aztec. I mean, which I want to say it was Mayans.
Because you were saying it was like over 1 million.
I feel like the civilization was like well over 1 million people, because they were taking up quite a large area. That's why it's like not having the physical evidence left over, all the different body parts, carcasses, all that kind of stuff. It basically just showed like the entire civilization just disappearing, which, hey, if it was like smallpox or disease or something, there'd be all these freaking bodies around.
there'd be evidence of,
or at least the last little
mass
bit that
extinction
couldn't
or something,
because maybe they were getting rid of the bodies, but there'd still be like the leftover people that were doing that would eventually so there should have been some
like Pompeii, like where everybody,
there
we're able to dig that up and find
Hide
evidence.
the body.
but there should be
Hide
some
the
kind of
body.
like evidence of that, and from what I'm to recall, like there wasn't enough to really be able to say, I just died out.
I'm just
but it's
thinking-
like, where did it go?
I'm just thinking Breaking Bad.
Why is that?
When he put the body in the bathtub and he's like, I told you.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't eat through this kind of plastic.
Yeah, you got to get
It only works for this. Like, why did you? Now you got to clean that up.
ate through the floors.
All right,
It's just
so-
Drops right through the floor.
oh, do we have some info? What's going on?
It was around 19 million people that suddenly collapsed sometime
Wow.
during the 8th or 9th century. They never entirely disappeared. They do still have some descendants alive in Central America, in dozens of core urban areas in the lowlands of Yucatan, which is in Mexico,
Well, but there was
which is where the temples are.
well, yeah, but there was like an extinction level event with the population, right? Like, I'm not just making this up. Like, this is
I mean,
thing,
a
right?
few outliers is one thing, but we're still talking about mostly
Well, if you're talking about like millions of
less
people,
than a million. That's still a lot of people.
well, yeah, because I mean, if
That's
It
a
said
lot of
it
people.
went from city to city.
what went from
And
city to city?
Happened the disappearance of people, and it happened over the course of roughly 100 years. But there was 5 theories that went along with it, and
Oh, here we
it was
go.
It's like rapture
drought,
type kind of stuff.
deforestation. No, it did not have anything about like a rapture.
No, that they were just taken out by whether it was starvation, disease, whatever, like different.
Yeah, its most common theory is that it underwent a rapid deforestation, and that's what made a lot of the changes.
Rapid deforestation. That's not a good thing.
So that's the thing, though, is like, did the population disappear without evidence, or is it that because
They got too
this is
big
what
for
I'm
their
speaking
britches.
of? No, this is more of what I'm speaking of. Is I know I definitely have seen a few documentaries on this where it was a indigenous people of South America where more or less a large chunk or the majority of a civilization just disappeared.
I think that was the Aztecs.
Was
Maybe it is.
Aztec?
Maybe I got.
I
Maybe
always
it's
thought
not
it was
Mayans.
Mayans. I don't know.
Well, same difference. I mean, you're still
What the
talking about
memory, what the memory of a human being is like.
well, but that's you're still talking down that relative area. I mean, this is like Peru and all that kind of stuff. I mean, South America. So I don't know. Let's look because maybe it is Aztec.
places I've never been. We would like to go. I would like to go to Peru.
I don't know, maybe it's just my brain wants to recall it as mine for some reason. But yeah, maybe it is Aztec.
Yeah, ayahuasca want to go to Peru.
So I was researching ayahuasca experiences today. This was like
I feel like this is still. Do you mind?
part
if
of my like research that I was doing and whatnot.
No, we're good. We're good.
The thing that because I was going through ayahuasca experiences specifically, so not like how ayahuasca works. The fact that it's the DMT or whatever.
It's basically a naturally occurring DMT that you're mixing with a leaf that creates I forget what it is, but it protects it so that it's
It creates the ability for your intestine to actually ingest it.
MAO inhibitor. I think that's
Well, yeah,
something.
it has like a certain.
I don't even
amino
know what that
acid.
means, but I just blurted that out.
Well, yeah, but so beyond.
I'm sorry,
that,
did I black out?
Beyond that, the reoccurring theme that I felt was consistent in all of the different experiences was prior to taking ayahuasca, there had to be a cleansing.
Right.
So one of the ones that I watched was
With a specific diet and specific regimen of like herbs and
just a general so one of my specific examples is Ron White. Ron White was explaining his ayahuasca experience.
I wasn't aware that Ron.
So he went because he wanted to quit drinking. This was a point in time in his life where he was just drinking way too much and he knew it. He'd already been beating himself up, as he says, with smoking and drinking and everything for years prior, decades even. But he was at a place where he was even more beyond that. And he knew there was an issue and wanted to resolve it. And in doing so, he felt ayahuasca was going to be a way. Like, he had heard this was a thing, as well as he'd already tried to be like, oh, I'll just go like the rehab route. And he priced it out, and it was like $100,000 for 30 days.
So was this a Joe Rogan-ish type thing? Or?
Yeah, it actually was on Joe Rogan.
Oh, I was going to say, because it kind of has that feeling to it.
Well, so he's talking about how he went to do it as a detox because he had heard other people of having this success with it. So he goes down to do it, and and he was very honest. He says I was honest with the guys. They asked, hey, how long has it been since you've done this? Da da da. Like, where are you at? Like, what what's the whole purpose? Like, they gave him put him through and gave him the works on it. And when he got down to it, he's like, yeah, I'm a heavy drinker, like this, that, and the other. And they're like, yeah, no, you got to be clean for at least 14 days before you can do this. Like, you can't just, like, you're not going to just walk in here.
You have to be, you have to, I mean, you can, it's not that you have to leave, but you have to now spend 2 weeks in a shack making sure that you detox from everything.
Yeah, you got to be 2 weeks with, well, it was just the alcohol. Because he was also still smoking cigarettes, which, I mean, he still smokes, whatever, but.
And it's no joke. Alcohol is like one of the most deadly to try to come off of if you're really, really addicted to it. Like, it's actually known to kill more people than coming off of heroin.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
If you quit alcohol cold turkey, your whole body will shut down, your liver will fail.
So
it causes more for quitting it than it does to just keep doing it.
As we crack a beverage over here right at the moment.
It's proof it's me, man.
Hey, everything in moderation.
Well, absolutely. Don't get it twisted. Like, well, I mean, every once in a while.
And I think there's a vacation in store because in my state there happens to be an ayahuasca retreat available.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've heard about that. That certain kind of splinter cells of the Christian faith have actually branched off into ayahuasca as being part of their ritualistic sacrament. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So kind of like I would compare it to like the Rastafarians using marijuana as, their sacrament kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, we've had that conversation. I mean, that's exactly what it is.
In Jamaica, they usually have a bar inside the church. So they say you can get your spirit while you're getting your spirit.
I like that. That sounds pretty dope. I'm down with that. Let's go to Jamaica too.
I guess,
It's been a while. I'm due for a visit.
Is it Jesus juice?
Jesus juice. Yo, get off my Kool-Aid. So have we come to a conclusion? Is this Mayan, Aztec, or something? Because I feel like this is a thing. Like this is not.
You've heard that before too. That this whole.
I'm very certain.
However many people it was, that there was a certain.
Yeah, there was a large quantity of a civilization that just disappeared in South America.
Not the entire Mayan civilization, but like that there was a very large faction of it that had just kind of up and disappeared.
Well, yeah.
Well, with the Mayans, it went city by city over the course of 100 years, like I had said before. But with the Aztecs, it was the Spanish War that completely pretty much took them out, and any ones that were left were due to migration. But the Aztecs had...
So this idea of a civilization literally disappearing didn't actually happen. This was in both of our heads.
Unless they're hiding the evidence now. C-O-N.
I will look further into it.
Yes, please.
But one states it was due to a war, and the other states due to environmental.
I know there was plenty of that with the Aztecs and the Mayans.
Well, and that's the thing is that's why I feel like it was like the Mayans, because it was the whole Mayan calendar and all that stuff. And how all of a sudden it went from there was just a massive population to we're saying there's just a few outliers where it's, you can see some of the genetic trail through the current indigenous people, but it's not a... There
was a case it had to do with the settlers after, I think it was in North Carolina or in Virginia. It was the Roanoke Indians. They had the Croatian land that everybody that settled on it just elusively disappeared.
Oh,
Yeah, no, I'm
Wait,
speaking.
was
The
that where?
Croatan or
Yeah, the
Croatia.
like,
Croatia.
Well, there was a Croatoan virus that actually referred to in one of my favorite shows, Supernatural. They ran on that for a couple different episodes.
I'm pretty sure this is why I want to go back to the whole Mayan thing, is because I'm pretty sure it was like, all right, so they're being this advanced because they can create this calendar and they know math, all these kind of things. How is it that this massive civilization that had really just put itself on the map just up and disappeared? To the fact that yeah, we have just like a few descendants of it.
Who knows, man?
This is what I'm speaking of.
I think I found out what you're talking about.
Here we go.
Okay.
Please dispense some knowledge.
So for 1,000 years long before Columbus, that I am so going to butcher this.
And so we're talking like a legend.
Anasazi, Anasazi Indians
Anasazi
were lords of what are now the American Southwest.
Okay.
And it says, let me scroll down.
See, we got to get the information straight before we go. And you're just over here drinking shine.
Complex.
This whole show is just off the rails right now.
Shine, yes.
This is great. See, fact checker was supposed to help us.
They were compared to the Mayans.
Okay.
And then,
But see, I'm just, I really want to
say that they mysteriously disappeared.
Here we go.
Well, I really feel it goes to this idea of like
They raised their vibrational pattern.
There was
to
a
such an
mass
extent.
quantity of knowledge and ability that just up and disappeared.
Several times throughout history.
But I'm speaking on the mind specifically. Like, I feel like this was...
the Mesopotamians and the Sumerians knew way more before the Egyptians came along. And some say the knowledge was just kept getting passed, basically. But
well, I mean, isn't it?
But there are a lot of times throughout history where it's like we've had to rediscover things. I mean, we're still trying to figure out what the whole purpose of the pyramids were, and some people are pretty convinced that it was some kind of hydroelectric plant. Which that's the most interesting for me. But
what do we got?
It says they lived there for 1,000 years, and then within a single generation, they were completely gone. And this was between one generation, they were gone. Hey, we rolled with it. Between 1275 and 1300 AD, they stopped building completely, and the land was left empty. It's a complete mystery. And the answer lies deep within the canyon.
All right, what was the size of that population? Because then maybe this is the thing, and I'm just equating it to the Mayans because it was, yeah. What was the size of the population or the civilization speculated? Because obviously they're not going to have an exact number, right? But I mean, they should be able to.
Oh, there's a book on it.
Just a book. There's just a book on it.
Well, I mean, it's called The Flood, the Chaco Canyon. The House of Rain is the name of the book.
The House of Rain.
See, now there's a special that's like documentary-wise that's floating on Amazon right now that's about the canyon that you just said. The Chaco, whatever,
Really?
Which I thought was...
Taco.
Well, I thought that canyon was in North America, but is that South America? Is this what we're... This is what you're telling me?
Would believe so. All right.
Frequency here?
Chaco Canyon.
Chaco Taco.
What's the frequency, Kenneth?
Wasn't tacos.
Should love Chaco tacos, man. So good.
Dude, that's racist.
What?
No, I'm just playing with you.
The heck are you Chaco Taco, Chico.
Now you being racist.
Just showing you what the difference is.
It is in the United States.
Or
see, all right. So then
the historical park.
I think we're mixing stories up here. Then,
quite possibly.
Yeah. Let's find out what the population size.
What's your excuse? 66 times.
I'm focused here. Stop it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, let's try to focus on the population size of what you said was this mass population that disappeared. Let's see if we can get like an actual number on that. I'd be curious because I'm pretty sure that's what I'm saying. Like there was.
You were saying over
30,000.
30,000 is
see, this doesn't.
That's a pretty big number, though.
Yeah, it says that they had 30,000 square mile landscape of sandstone canyons, but it was populated by as many as 30,000 people. It was in Pueblo Bonito.
That's more than 10K. That's more like where I was saying.
Now, to continue the story, is it speculated that they just like literally up and disappeared and there was no evidence of like they just it wasn't like obviously disease or war or something because there wasn't.
The story I remember, it was just a lot of speculation. Nobody really knew, but I don't know if
it has to do with the canyon. Watch the damn movie.
But that's North America, and these cats are South America. So this is
no. It says New Mexico. Isn't that's U.S.?
No, you're all right. So let's go back to the indigenous. What the ASCZ was it with them?
Anasazi? Am I pronouncing that wrong, or is
Fugazi?
Anasazi? Yeah, that would be right. Anasazi.
All right, so this was
somehow I feel like that's a thing.
Is this the same people that were the population of 30,000 in the canyon that we're talking about? Is this like?
Yes, except this one contradicts and says it's about 40 square miles. But it says it consisted of 10,000 to 20,000 farming.
See, this, I feel like it's South America that I'm recalling for this story.
Well, how many acres is a square mile?
Because there was like pyramids and all sorts of stuff.
It says it's structures. In Southwest America.
That's
Southwest North
America? That's North America. Yeah, so this is. I feel like we want to be in South America on this. I don't know. Maybe we should have we should have researched before we did this.
I would tend to agree with you. It was one of those really. I mean, the timeline is right.
So, and this goes to why it is that I feel, and I want to discuss it, is because, like we're saying, your idea of they were resonating on that frequency.
That's just what I like to think. Yeah.
Well, so mine gives it that same idea. However, yours is they just black matter, bloop, disappear. Whereas mine is they're showing physical separation between the body and the spirit.
It's like by changing their vibration or vibratory pattern, they actually, not that they cease to exist, because that doesn't really happen. They just unbutton themselves from this dimension.
Yeah, it's like if they go through like black hole and come out on the other side of like alternate reality or parallel universe or something. So yeah, I get that.
Like that show?
What show?
What is it called? Manifest, where just everybody disappeared.
What was this?
There's a couple of different. Well, the Manifest. It was an airplane.
I think.
Isn't it? It's like a newer one.
4,000 or something. 4,000 or 4,400 or something is another version.
Yeah, there's a couple of different versions that I've heard about. People disappearing and then coming back years later, and they haven't aged a day, but everyone else is like old.
Like some Bermuda Triangle stuff.
Some stuff. I don't even know. Some crazy Philadelphia experiment kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's some trippy stuff right there.
I'm telling you. And there's certain things you just shouldn't mess around with,
Well, so that was another part of one of the specials that I was watching with Jessie May, I guess, and Joe Rogan. They were talking about the Unabomber and how he was actually a part of the Harvard LSD study.
Oh, really?
Apparently, yeah. So he had spent
back in the day.
He had spent years.
The Timothy Leary.
Well,
wasn't that part of that.
No, it was Ted. Oh God, was it Ted Kaczynski?
Ted Kaczynski.
Yeah. So, and they had basically like put him through the trials, and they were reading some of the information about it, where they basically were drugging him, but also putting him through like emotional, mental torture.
Right. They were
on top of being like, way bombed on freaking acid.
They were conditioning him for a certain response.
Well, and this was speculated as an extension of the MK Ultra program.
I've never seen Manchurian Candidate, but wasn't that the whole theme behind that? That there was like
MK Ultra
words that you could say that would trigger a response, and yeah.
Well, yeah. So it was the programming or whatever.
Are we off subject? I don't know. I feel like we just took a total left turn.
No, because we're still talking about like resonating on different frequencies and like alternate stuff and.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, but I mean, because that's that thing is like, so that puts you into that mindset. So there's a lot of, we were having, because we had the conversation with Dr. Dispenza.
Spenza, yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for getting that right.
Yeah, thank you. I looked it up.
Kept saying Spinoza.
Yeah, well, because I messed it up. Dude, this is why we needed the fact checker to help us out with that. But the whole being able to turn on and off those markers and all that kind of stuff by being, like meditating and like focusing inward and all that kind of stuff.
A lot of the stuff that I'm reading sounds like some of the stuff that you've been reading, because like you bounce it off me all the time about staying positive about a given situation and
about all things.
Don't focus on the little things as they change, because
focus on all the positives and the outcomes and what you're looking for. Yeah.
And all of that roots back to ancient yogic philosophy as well.
Yeah.
Are you going to start talking about Sanskrit again?
Probably.
No. Because I've already mastered an ancient language. I mean, come on.
I've already mastered it. I can't master it anymore.
But it's written in all languages, though. And that's one thing that that's one thing that I am intrigued by, is the not the differences, but the similarities between all the different, whether you call them religious or spiritual treatises or religious texts, whatever you call them.
Parables?
Parables are from many different nations, actually. There's one belief system called Ek, where it's basically the energy that is within every one of us. It's a different type of focus, but they use parables as well.
It's like chi.
And their way of describing things. And it's funny because a parable is a parable is a parable. I mean, they all say, I mean, no, I'm just saying, they all kind of have that.
You get a parable.
They all kind of have that weird, like eerie feeling to them that you can totally, focus on and connect with.
Yeah, they speak of the ills.
Because they tend to be written in such a way that they're very universal. I mean, that's the whole point.
Well, it's the idea of like Shakespeare,
but it's also
he grasped all of the basic understandings or stories or the dichotomies in this world, kind of a thing. So that's why
Shakespeare in some ways took it a little bit further, because he actually invented some of the words that he used. They didn't exist before. Yeah, there were. I can't remember exactly, but there were.
Whilst. Dude, I love whilst. Whilst is such a great word.
Whilst.
Yeah. I was transpiring of this and whilst. It's just a great word. I like good words. What? I'm a nerd. I can admit it. It's okay.
It sounds like something very Edgar Allan Poe-ish, too.
Dude, right?
Whilst
the Raven.
I was just thinking it's got to be in the Raven somewhere. Whilst.
Yeah, right. What is the Nevermore? Whilst beckoning nevermore at me. That's what he said. Pretty sure. I just quoted. That's not it. Oh my God. I get so much stuff wrong. That's hilarious.
Yeah, he was a drunkard.
So it also said that the Mayan, circling back, the Mayan civilization, obvious, it said it disappeared without a trace as well, but it doesn't say why. It just says
because there's no answer.
Their supported theories. Yes. Well, it says that their theories are due to like environmental.
Right, but is there still like, that's what I was always stuck on. Like, is there still evidence that's missing? Like we're talking about, for the number of people we were speaking of, there are bodies in graves, but there's not. If you're talking about a whole, civilization being wiped out, like you'd find all of their bodies, right? I mean, 99% of them.
No, because the Mayans said it happened like city by city, so it wouldn't have been like the plague where it wiped out everybody at once. It would have been like a little by little until they were completely all.
So it's not as fantastical as we thought it would,
No, because it says that it possibly happened because of drought, foreign invasion, collapse of trade route, and the disease of.
I don't know. It was one of those tales I just got taken away with. It happens.
All right.
Something about a Mayan civilization that disappeared, but I guess that didn't mean the same thing. Like they actually just kind of died off slowly.
I feel like I'm gonna have to do some research on this.
Like,
I'm feeling like, dude, I
mean, 19 million people is still a lot of people, but you're talking about over a course of 100 years. That's
right.
I mean, it's still a relatively short period of time, but looks like there's many factors that cause that to happen. And it wasn't like there was
all right. Well, so yeah, like over 100-ish years would be a relative 3 generations.
Like even Easter Island, it went from like 200 to 300,000. I'm sorry, it went from 2,000 to 3,000 people down to 100. I mean, that's not.
It's pretty drastic.
Like 19 million, but still.
No, but percentage wise, I mean.
Well, the numbers never lie.
60% of the time.
66 times in the head.
Oh, you decided to go there with that? Okay.
Well, I'm pretty sure. I thought you said. I mean, I feel like
60% of the time is what I said.
I thought you said 66% of the time.
66.
Maybe that's just what my brain wanted to hear.
In
an enemy. Don't hurt yourself there, son.
Today, Junior.
Today, Junior. Nice. Thanks for picking that up.
Yo, weren't we doing that one earlier too? Shampoo is better. It cleans the hair and goes on first.
Conditioner, I'm better. I go on last and keep the hair silky and smooth.
Dude, Adam Sandler is so
I don't even know
dope.
where we're going right now. Sorry.
It's all right. We don't have to go anywhere. I mean, I still want to go on this idea.
There's a few in Mexico that have just disappeared. Like there's the Olmec civilization. They disappeared in 300 BCE. Their graves have also disappeared, so it's impossible to determine why they're.
Does a grave disappear?
What kind of population are we talking about with that one?
Well, we were talking like, 1100 BCE and 300 BC.
Well, I'm sure there's still a speculated population. This is why I'm like, I feel
we're
like
looking up microfiche of old like newspaper articles. Like
well, see, this is just why I'm trying to relate, pull from my knowledge as to why I'm thinking this way. I feel as though there was a large population or civilization that disappeared in South America, possibly Mayan, and at this point maybe even like Aztec. But because I mean, think
what about Atlantis, man?
No, so think about the amount of
serious.
I'm trying to stay focused on this thing. I'm trying to stay focused here. Gosh.
So it says that there were 18,000 people.
Negatory. This is
18,000 is not. That's not.
No, this is not. Yeah, no. Negative Ghost Rider pattern is full.
That's not making you happy either. 18,000 isn't.
No,
18K is not enough.
This is not. No.
And this is a decent amount of people.
So going to.
If you want to go back to your million.
So going to the Mayan thing, them having the knowledge that they had, the math skills, all these things, for that to disappear, I feel like might be the central idea. That's why I want to keep coming back to the Mayans. So maybe it was this thing that was drawn out over 100 years. So are we talking in that 100 years, like the population of several million, like I think you said 19, dwindled down to like next to nothing? Is this the...
Mm-hmm.
The dwindled down is a totally different story, though.
All right, well, let's keep going down that rabbit hole then.
Okay.
What's the... You said deforestation was the possibility of this. Now, is there any evidence to support that? Like, did they see that there was like migratory patterns or...
Are we talking about 19 million people, like all like living at the same time? Or are we talking about through the course of so many generations, 19 million people?
Yeah, let's...
Because a civilization of even 10 million people would cause a pretty catastrophic effect on their
10
local
million, 10 million, 10 million.
Well, I'm saying on their local habitat, because if you imagine so many square feet per family, and that you basically would have to deforest an entire area, and you'd have your own cattle, and you'd have your own farmland, and you'd have your own, but the nature part would be gone for the most part. And that's one of the things I was talking about with.
See, and I feel like the Mayans were very much about having that balance. I mean, I feel like most indigenous tribes of any area that I'm aware of history-wise, North America, South America, were very much about sustainability in the sense of like ebb and flow with the earth.
Indigenous, yes.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Absolutely. The indigenous species were always very good at because when you're below a certain amount of population, it's easy to live life like that. But when you get over a certain amount of population, that was one of the things I thought was interesting about.
See, that doesn't make sense to me.
What's going on?
Like that legit doesn't make sense to me. If you can sustain on, this amount of people for this much amount of land and like farm it done correctly where you're pulling, chickens, vegetables, whatever you need to be doing, then how is it that you can't do that on a larger scale? Like, I don't see how a larger population all of a sudden like depletes any and all of that. I mean, if you can, because
I suppose it depends on how you're spread out, how you're laid out.
But that's the thing is, micro farming nowadays with the way we have the abilities, I mean, a family can sustain itself and several other families. I mean, a large portion of its populace just from like, quarter acre, half acre, an acre of land going year round. I mean, this has already been proven.
You're also talking about living on a homesteaded farm like that, because it's basically, you're talking about a homesteaded farm, which is more like early Americas, like where you would have a couple horse, maybe a cow, a couple chickens, and that's very sustainable for a small family because you'd only have to grow a certain amount of corn or grain or whatever to keep those animals fed and still have enough left over for yourself and for maybe a couple neighbors.
See, that's what I'm talking about. It's like on an acre of land nowadays.
That's different than like taking over like whole swaths of land to grow like,
Yeah, but see, there wouldn't have to be the necessity for that. That's what I'm saying. Like with today's technology and ability, especially with like understanding dietary needs and all that stuff, being able to live basically a primarily vegetarian lifestyle, at least over lacto where you're consuming egg and milk and stuff, you can have a very sustainable diet.
I think it would be fairly common to maybe eat meat occasionally.
That's what I'm saying. So that's why I said primarily vegetarian. So if
your cow gets old enough that it's basically going to die of natural causes soon, then maybe it's time. And then you have a calf to raise that will eventually have another calf and produce milk. So you're not worried about it. But it's not like you have a hamburger every Friday night.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
You're not having steak and potatoes every night. There's no way that can sustain itself. But that, over the course of some time, I mean, you would have to store and preserve a certain amount of this, and you wouldn't be having the same kind of lifestyle, I guess, is what I'm saying, if you had to support it all for yourself. And if every time you wanted a burger you had to look something in the eye and kill it, I think that would change a lot of people's minds.
Well, so that goes on to the idea of like we were talking in the green room was about that movie Seaspiracy, where he goes in thinking that the whaling industry is like this huge proponent to just modifying everything. Like this is the massive culprit. And really what he winds up doing is finding that the idea of consuming any animal, especially seafood, because he has such a love for, the sea and all of its animals, that idea is, what needs to be done. So instead of having what, he thought was like sustainability where you can fish, we can still have these ecosystems thrive and we can find this balance. he came to the conclusion that just consuming anything that, considered to be alive is wrong, basically. So, he completely switched his perspective.
And even though I'm nearly fully vegan at this point, like, I don't see that there's a problem with eating an animal. But I think it's the mass consumption that creates standards that are really low when it comes to the health of not only the animal, and a lot of people would pick, oh, you're a vegetarian or animal rights, and it goes well beyond that. It goes to your own personal health.
It should also be quality
and the
over
health,
quantity.
And the thing about Cowspiracy, which was, I think, the sister movie to that Seaspiracy, was
COW-spiracy.
Well, I think what I touched on was they said that I think it was something like 91% of all the depletion of the Amazon rainforest was due to agricultural, and I think mostly cattle rearing. And the point being is that people get so used to eating like meat, whether it's any kind of animal meat, really, on such a regular basis that it's common to have, a very large serving of beef or a very large serving of, well, just about anything. When honestly, you really don't need that much. And if you were living on a farm, you probably wouldn't eat nearly that much. When you'd eat meat, it would probably be salted in most cases.
This is why this is one of my big takeaways and my bigger joys of the movie Avatar, is how the indigenous people of that planet were very much about the balance. And whenever they would take a life, they were thankful, they had gratitude, they showed appreciation, like all that kind of stuff, and really just, put that positive energy out there. So even though they were taking a life,
I saw some parallels with the Native Americans.
Well, I mean, that's very much, I think, what it was like trying to represent.
Right. Yeah.
It was a metaphor, duh.
Well, they went into...
I think I have some answers.
Oh, okay.
What? Wait, we back on the Mayan thing, or?
Mayan, Aztec, I found some, actual answers this time.
Let's hear it. Let's rock that
So we
house.
Googled deep.
What?
So the Mayans...
That sounds dirty.
The Mayans... were like we've already discussed, it was a bunch of different reasons why it could have possibly killed them, but it was found that the titanium and aluminum changed during the 9th and 10th centuries, where they had their land, so that affected a lot of stuff within their soil and area, and then it was destroyed by a massive drought. And then the next fall of the Mayans was the Spanish conquest. And then there were some that migrated over to Belize, and it declined to either soil exhaustion, disease, or peasants revolting and massacring the priests.
And this is over the 100-ish years?
Yeah. And then the Aztecs, which I found out was kind of interesting because this hasn't popped up yet. The Aztecs was a mysterious epidemic that devastated them. Of all things, it was food poisoning in the 1545. And then it says an unknown disease over the next 5 years, which then they called...
Butcher it.
Cocoliztli. Coccoliztli. Coccoliztli.
And Bingo was his name.
Or pestilence. Let's just go with that. But that killed 17 million people.
Okay.
I'm thinking probably something akin to like cholera. That's what I'd guess. Because when you're talking about
if food poisoning and this disease, that would be quick. Yeah, and then the Mayans dealt with overpopulation.
Well, I mean, usually comes in the
population. You're just making up all sorts of words tonight.
Usually comes in the form of a poisoned water, basically, that your water source. It's an osmosis thing.
Osmosis.
Osmosis Jones. I don't know.
Reverse osmosis? Is that when it comes back out the opposite way?
Oh, always better out than in, I always say.
Reverse osmosis. Now I'm trying to remember what that's all about. Wait. Osmosis is when something
Crosses over a membrane.
because it doesn't exist in that part of the solution. So it has to, it's kind of drawn
Equalizes.
to it to equalize. Yeah.
Yeah. It's osmosis is when something crosses a membrane or a barrier.
What reverse osmosis is.
It's when you're going back across it.
You're going back over that barrier. Okay, thank you.
It was so reverse osmosis is typically known with water purification,
Yeah, that's where I've heard of it.
where they're removing, because on the other side of that membrane there isn't anything. That's why over time you have to like swap out those filters.
Right, absolutely.
It's because the other side of that barrier gets to the point where it equalizes and you're not stripping anything out of the water anymore.
Kind of like a battery, right? When all the electrons get to one side, it doesn't.
It does the hokey pokey. It turns itself about.
It's done the dance. You gotta start over. Again.
Do a little dance.
You gotta start the music again.
Make
Put
a
your
little
left foot in.
love.
Get down tonight. Yes.
Get down tonight.
Get down tonight. You gotta say it twice.
So the key difference was osmosis is a natural process, while reverse osmosis is water purification type idea.
Yeah. Do your little dance. Do it.
I'm sorry, I just had to
Do you
celebrate.
remember the silent discos?
Yeah. What, on the cruise?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So imagine this, a whole dance floor, like club scene, okay? Everybody's got headphones on. There's 3 different color lights and they correlate to what style music you're listening to. So like there's red, green, and blue. And you would just watch the sea of people with different colored headphones on, all dancing, very different styles, but yet all together.
That was an interesting. Have you ever been to one of these things, man?
This sounds like a really weird rave.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's called a silent
I
disco.
will send you a video later.
It's like raving without the drugs.
So like she's saying, you might have 2 or 3 different types of music that you're listening to.
Why does that man look like he's having a seizure?
So you could tune in where you have A, B, or C.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Your headphone would broadcast a different color depending on what station.
Correct.
you're
Yeah,
on.
I'm picking all this up, but
And you would naturally tend to gather near people that are of the similar color because you're all kind of dancing to the same rhythm. You know, but it would be funny because you'd see, of course it's going to be interspersed, right? I mean, 80% of it's going to be somewhat together, but 20% is going to kind of be mingled around and doing its own thing.
60% of the time, it works all the time.
I'm sorry, I'm referencing you just brought up Pareto principle
What? I did bring up nothing.
in the green room prior to this episode.
Wait, you mean the 20-80 rule? Is that what we're talking about?
Pareto principle.
Yeah, the 20-80 rule where 20% has 80% and 80% has 20%. But you can also take the extension of that where you should be able to do financially.
Because that's 100% BS.
Well, no. So in when I went for my business degree,
Economics and stuff they teach.
the way they expressed it, beyond that, personally, you should be able to spend 20% of your time making 80% of your income. That's an appropriate ratio to be like healthy financial living. Well, because think about that, because then you still have 80% of your time to give out. So it's like, oh crap, if this isn't enough, you fall short.
I think what you were saying before is the Pareto
You have the
principle
available
works in all kinds of different facets. Though,
Oh, yeah.
and that it works in a population of people that. Well, I think what we were saying before when we first brought it up was that
what Jordan Peterson pointed out.
That the Pareto principle refers to the fact that 20% of the population will actually produce 80% of the value of that, whatever it is, good or service or what,
As well as 20% of the people will have 80% of the...
in the workforce, in politics, in everything.
Yeah, it'll all balance out.
That same principle works everywhere. That 80% of the people put forth 20% of the overall outcome, and 20% of the people put forth 80% of the overall outcome.
Well, yeah, that's why I was also saying, 20% possesses 80% of the production. So that's like whether it's money or goods or everything. So, I mean, yeah, and this is across all systems. So this is just like purely math, basically. And I mean, our society has proven this,
It's just a natural tendency.
Yeah, no, so this is why I think there's such a push there's a logical reasoning behind how everything works in this world as we like interact with it. I mean, math can show this, faith can show this. So every ideology that we would ever use to understand any single property or idea, it all comes back to like, dude, even science will back it up. So whether you want to go off faith or numbers, they still say the same stuff. That's what I'm saying, bro. Same as Santa Makasa. Same as Santa Makasa.
But there's a natural force behind.
Yeah, you'll always have the 80-20. It'll just be.
Have that.
Well, from what we have collected as data, since we have a written, knowledge, in that understanding, you go through it and look at everything, there's going to be a consistency of the 80-20. And I mean, that's just across the board.
All different kinds of.
Yeah, do religions,
you could
social
say the same
systems,
thing.
everything.
Even like 20% of the music is, or 20% of the musicians are making 80% of the music that's out there. I mean,
correct. You know why?
Ghostwriters and
Correct.
producers don't want to pay them to actually perform, so they'll pay them to write lyrics, and because they're singer-songwriters.
Well,
I mean, we were talking about Prince before, I think, at one point. We were talking about how Prince has actually written many, hit songs that he never actually performed himself.
I believe it.
And he was one of many. But
I think even Elton John.
Big time. Yeah.
He wrote tons and tons of stuff. Dude, Phil Collins, I'm pretty sure. And that's the thing is, a lot of your more renowned musicians, yeah, that's what they do. They're the ones that are actually just writing the hits, and instead of them producing them audibly, they just produce them on the backside, and they actually make that track happen.
So they'll actually write the song, and some other, young up and coming star will just take that and
because that's the freshest, newest thing to sell. Yeah, man, dude, that's what marketing is, man. Newer, fresher, better. New and improved.
That's what I always thought was funny. Like selling out can be it's always kind of got a bad connotation, like somebody who sells out. But isn't that the nature of the business? So
sell out. If you're
if you're in it for the fun of the music, you're more like the Grateful Dead,
tonight.
Right? Where it's like, come see us and be a part of what this magic that we create, which is they're very much on the music side of things. Or it's hey, this is a job just like any other. I got to make money for my family.
The record company gonna give you lots of money. Everything's gonna be all right. No one.
I thought you were doing a thing.
It's gonna leave me hanging.
Yeah,
that's messed up, man. That's messed up.
I'm gonna leave you hanging.
You
got anything?
Everything's gonna be okay.
Everything's gonna be Irie.
Right near the beach. Lord of mercy.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh man,
like Moleca.
We you ain't got no schlish Moleca. That's still one of my favorite. I mean, that's what he's on. I've been
shining right now.
I've been sipping on the watermelon wheat India Pale Ale. This 5.6. Yo, that was for real. Like that was crazy when that happened earlier. So we're like in the middle of like a green room, and she's like expressing how tall Napoleon was 5'6", right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And as she's expressing this information, I'm cracking open a beer and thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm curious what the ABV is on this thing. 5.6.
So it's 5'6".
Yeah, within like seconds of her saying, yeah, Napoleon is 5'6", I'm just like, 5.6. That's
5.6.
Dude, I just eyeballed you up and like shoved it in your face. I'm like, look at this. Check it out.
I'm like, what? Oh, that is weird. Right at the same moment.
But I didn't tell you that you had to like read it. You just like
I like the idea of like calling a beer by its height.
by its height.
Right, whatever.
I mean, that's one way to judge it.
Like,
you know
that's
what I mean?
a 5'6". That's all right.
I mean, you know, you only got to be this tall to ride that ride.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like that's a Joe. It's a Joe Pesci. You know what I'm saying? You're sipping on a Joe Pesci right now. Like some nights I'm sipping on a Manu Bowl. You know what I'm saying?
Or like a Danny DeVito.
Like some nights it's like Andre the Giant.
Dude, that was a big dude.
I'm just saying. You know, you get up.
Do you remember those mini cans?
The mini
pony cans?
of what?
Like a miniature can of like beer, soda, whatever.
Yeah, those are ponies.
Ponies, man.
Yeah, the little
Those
ones.
would be the Danny DeVitos.
That's the Danny DeVito. Well, I was thinking as far as ABV, like saying that's more like a height. You relate that to like,
Yeah.
5'6", man, maybe it's not a Danny DeVito, but
220,
definitely a Joe
241.
Pesci, It's funny though, you're talking about Napoleon, like everybody always pegged him for being super short, but
Short. He really
like,
wasn't that short.
For his time, 5'6" was not, 5'8" was the standard, so 5'6" was a little short, but it wasn't like crazy
But think about that. If 5'8" is like
5'8" was like today what 6 foot would be.
so that's
or
the thing is if
6'1".
you're like 5'8" at 5'6", you're now short. Because it's a slightly different ratio. So it just, it looks larger, but it's not really.
I guess. I think it was one of those things that was always blown out of proportion. I mean,
That's what
whenever
I'm
you see
saying.
a man sitting on a horse, it's kind of hard to judge, height at that point,
Oh, that's too
I
far.
don't know. Who knows? Maybe when portraits were done, his painter decided to stand on a ladder. I don't know. Maybe the perspective was off. I'm trying not to judge here.
I don't know. I just had a flashback to like Super Troopers 2.
Like maybe he was of normal height, but it was just always portrayed that he was short. I don't know.
The scene in Super Troopers 2 where he's talking about how he would have sexual relations with a moose. And he's like, you would need a ladder to do that. And he's like, I would.
Hey.
And I would do that.
Hey there, bear fucker.
No, that's the first one.
I know.
No, the second one is like, oh, it's even better. Well, because then you get the Canadian
That was the
American.
again that you brought up. I was just thinking about the original.
What, dude? I don't think I don't know how your brain made that
It
connection.
just did.
But all right.
It totally did.
I mean, that's how it works. I know this.
All right. Anyway, were we saying something serious? I can't remember.
Yeah, we got to go.
Joe Pesci.
No, we literally got to go. So,
Wow, is it really that time already? All right.
yeah, this is I'm telling you. Reach out to us at IMTELLINYOU at directionsandmusic.org. And thanks for listening. This is Philly D.
Mr. Gemini.
And
JD.
yeah, be good to yourself. Be good to everyone else, fam.
Much
Peace.
love. Peace.
Peace.